Isagi was born to soon to be the best striker in the world. Noel Noa is a monster in present, the best striker in the world entirely, a complete forward with supreme physicality. He's able to shoot with both of his feet, and he just has an overall all-powerful shot. Someone that is so elite that it feels as if he's the best striker and it's not even close, or even the best forward and it's not even close. Now, with that said, Noel Noa, when he was younger, would actually get a girl pregnant. And there wasn't that much to it, really. They were in a relationship for a good while, and they more or less were talking about the future endeavors of Noel Noa. But once he got the opportunity to more or less take his chance in the big leagues, and this is him being in France and their more or less next step right before their national team, he was so excited that, they did the thing. And when they did the thing, well, everything kind of happened a little fast. Noel Noa would end up getting her pregnant. Now, immediately, as the stand-up guy he is, he would say that he'll shut everything down. He'll help her raise this child and so on. But she would tell him that she doesn't want him to do that. That she wants him to become the best striker in the world. Be the person that she knows he can be. She says that she has some parents and family back in Japan, and that she can go to Japan and get help raising this child. And he can help, or she can help, or he can help her in terms of finances whenever he gets the chance and whenever he can. And once he's rich and famous, then there you go. He can help take care of their son or daughter, but in this case would be a son. Noel Noa wouldn't be okay with this idea. He would say that this was his kid. He needs to help take care of him now. But of course, again, Isagi's mother would shake her head and tell him that it's fine, that everything's going to be okay, and that once they're all settled in, once he's the best striker and forward in the world, and once Isagi's a little bit older, they'll give him a call, and Isagi can meet his father. But before then, she'll tell him how good of a person his father is, and how he's abroad, you could say, working on more or less something very important. And Noel Noa, he's hesitant. He doesn't know what to say. Noah wants to be around his child, wants to be in the life of his child's life and help take care of him, raise him. But he trusts his girlfriend. And the fact is, this seems like the best choice and the best idea they have at the moment. So she would leaving France and heading to Japan to be with her own family to raise her future kid. And Noel Noa would continue his path to becoming the greatest striker in the world. But in Japan, Isagi is currently getting, raised. And he would, just for layman's sakes and for easy sakes, he would take on the name of Isagi instead of Noah. Of course, he might consider taking on the name of Noah later on, but for now, he's not technically deemed as a Noah. He's deemed as Yoichi Isagi. And he loved football growing up. And this was not a surprise to his mother. Frankly, his father loved it to death and loves it to death. And frankly, it doesn't surprise her that Isagi would be extremely skilled at football. His build, even at the age of only 12, would be pretty big, way bigger than most kids. He would be able to use both of his feet in terms of scoring and dribbling the football. And frankly, his physique alone would be insane. There's so many insane things that Yoichi Isagi gains, and even the mindset and seeing the field in some insane ways. Isagi would see things many people never would. His mind for the game would be absolutely elaborate. It's actually kind of wild. His mind for the game just worked better than everyone else's, and it seems like even with the whole coaching aspect of it kind of bringing down his ego, being that he believes that it's more or less a team game, he would still be a lethal forward for his team. And in his little tournament game, when he would be taking the ball down the field, he would be up 1-0 and not down 1-0. Isagi would take the ball down and he would get by everybody. If people try to press him, it would be easily passed. And on top of that, he would easily make a move and would easily be able to score goals. These goals would more or less come very, very simply to Isagi. These goals were something that he knew were going to happen. It was just a matter of time. So the defeat in the tournament would not happen for him. And frankly, the game would end up not being very close at all, which is great. Fantastic. And Isagi would celebrate with his team and everybody would be happy. But after his celebration, he would learn something. He would learn from his mother who his true father was. A phone would then get picked up, and though that phone would be the one and only Noel Noa. Isagi would ask if this is some sort of joke. Is this really who his father is? Is that why he never met him? His mother would tell the entire story. Noel Noa would explain as well, and Isagi wouldn't know what to say. How can he really be his son? I mean, seriously. He's no way. You gotta be kidding me. The best striker in the world is my father? In which Noel Noa would tell him that he has the potential to be the best. If that's what he wants to do. If he wants to play football and he wants to be the best striker, he definitely can be the best striker. He's heard about what he's been capable of so far. What he's done. He's seen videos. He's sorry that he hasn't been there. But him and his mother thought this was for the best. In which Isagi doesn't even know what to say. But he tells him that he's happy that he at least met him now. And he's happy that his mother and himself did what was best for the more or less life of Isagi, or the life of himself. In which Isagi would say that he has no grudges against him. He hopes one day they can meet in person, but Noel Noa would say that unfortunately for now, that's going to have to wait. But he does have a message for him. That he's been invited to something that's been experimented on and working on for a while in Japan. Japan is looking for its best striker. And frankly, Isagi has the potential to be just that. And he truly believes that. Isagi would hear this and he would be excited, thrilled, and frankly, just ecstatic to even be hearing this from his, father. And Noah would tell him that the facility is known as Blue Lock. More information will be kind of told to him by a man by the name of Jinpachi Ego. He's a good man. He's passionate, but he's a good man. He'll find him interesting and definitely odd in terms of what he's learned so far, but overall, he has good intentions. Noah would tell Isagi that he hopes that he goes to that place. He hopes that he arrives, and Isagi promises that he will, because he wants to be the best striker in the world, and he hopes that he can one day play or at least share the same field as his father. Noah would then say that he needs to go, but quickly they would say goodbye and hang up. The next day, Isagi would go to this auditorium. This auditorium would be a place that all of these strikers would kind of gather up. A complete and utter packed auditorium full of many, many strikers. Isagi, he was excited. He would look around and something would rush through his body as if it's this pure excitement and adrenaline. He would actually see Kira there. He would talk to him for a little bit. Yes, he just beat him, but Kira was in a pretty good mind state to an extent, and frankly, he wasn't too rude, or he wasn't rude really at all with Isagi. And after a small conversation about whatever's going on, he would learn, and they would all learn, that Jinpachi Ego is giving a bit of a presentation. The presentation would involve mainly one thing: the idea that the best strikers in the world need to have egos, and Blue Log is made for Japan to create the greatest striker alive. Ego would then pace back and forth as he's looking toward the crowd, and he sees as Kira begins to speak up about how things should be based around teamwork. And of course, Ego would see him, but then see the guy next to him. A young guy. He looks just like him. This is insane. He would look closer at Isagi slightly, as if he was squinting to make sure he wasn't hallucinating. He looks like Noel Noa, but just slightly different. This is crazy. He was right. He wasn't pulling my leg. His son. He's really here. Of course, Ego would try to keep his reins and his wits about him, and he would eventually open the doors up and tell them all to head on in if they want to show that they're the best striker alive. And Isagi would walk forward, thinking that if he wants to play with his father, it doesn't mean on the same field, or it doesn't mean on the same team, but it could be the same field, that this is the step in the direction he needs. He walks through those doors, and Jinpachi Ego cannot control his smile, and he begins to think to himself that he has the unpolished gem of a century. But this unpolished gem, well, it's almost a guarantee. All they have to do is polish it just a little bit, and he has his own Noel Noa, and whatever else this kid is capable himself, in which that's what excites Jinpachi Ego. What if he's even greater than Noel Noa? I mean, kids are prodigies nowadays. They learn so quick. This could be a spectacle. Well, Isagi would get all ready, set up, and he gets all his clothing on, and he gets ready to go. He would see and look around, and he would realize that, well, he's in Team Z, or at least Building Z. It would confuse him, but he would see that he is the highest out of everybody in terms of where he is, and in terms of kind of just the rankings in the entirety of the building. And this would make him kind of happy. I mean, he thinks it's cool that he's number one, but he doesn't understand how he's not number one in the grander scheme of things. But still, he doesn't really mind. With that said, eventually, the beginning of the very first test would start. And there's one person that's watching very, very intently, and that's Jinpachi Ego. He's curious to see what Isagi got. Frankly, the son of Noel Noa would pique his interest majorly, as said before, so he wants to watch as he does his thing. The game would then begin, and this game would be explained to be a game of tag. Yes, tag. It might sound odd that they're playing tag, but it's actually with a football. What they're doing is that they have about 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And if you're kicked with the ball or hit with the ball, that means you are it. You cannot use your hands, but everything else is legal. So in all technicality, you could kick somebody right in the face. But still, it all begins with the ball being kicked to someone else. And if they get hit with it, they're it. And whoever's it at the end of the 2 minutes and 16 seconds is the loser and has to lock off. Let's just say nobody in their right mind wants to lock off. Everybody wants their chance at becoming the next greatest striker, and Isagi is obviously one of them. He wants to be the greatest striker in the world. He wants to play on the same field as his father, so he knows what he needs to do, and he knows what he needs to get done. Because this is the start of all of their journeys, but this is mainly the start of his journey to becoming the greatest striker. And off the rip, one of them would receive the ball, kicking it around, trying to hit some people with it. It would be this bald or this monk-looking kid, and Isagi would just easily dodge, weave, and so on. It would be pretty simple. But eventually, well, the monk boy by the name of Iragashi would eventually see a kid laying down completely sleeping, and he goes to kick him directly in the face with the ball. But quickly, Isagi would see this and dash forward. As he dashes forward though, he kicks the ball away from the one by the name of Bachira. He would recover the ball, or Isagi would, and he would tell the guy that he shouldn't be kicking it at somebody who's already completely asleep or unable to defend himself. That's just ridiculous. In which, that would be kind of a moral thing for Isagi, at least personally. And he would tell him that that's just not cool, and he should really think about his actions before he does them. He would kick the ball or tap the ball up one time and kick the ball, hurling it to Iragashi at insane speeds. But as Iragashi watches the ball get hucked to him as if it's about to slam into his jaw, he immediately would duck. And as he ducks, it would slam straight into one Kira, basically throwing him into the wall. Everyone stands there in complete awe at the fact that Isagi's power is insane. How is he able to do that? He was able to kick the ball at such insane speeds, and it was as if he was shooting a bullet out of a gun. It seemed as if it was unstoppable. There was just no way it would have been stopped. Bachira would then wake up, or at least he would sort of wake up, and he would see exactly what happened. He would commend Isagi, saying that was one hell of a kick. He's impressed. That was awesome. And Isagi would look at him but wouldn't say much, and then look back at Kira. Kira would slowly get up, but he would be hurting, but the time would then eventually tick down, and his dreams of becoming a striker would fall with the time itself. And it would be over. It would be all wrapped up, and Kira would begin to freak out, saying that it shouldn't be him, that he's not the worst here. There's no way. He's nowhere near the worst here. And he begins to show the ego that was within him, but too late, and frankly, his time here is over. It's done, and it's completely wrapped up. Isagi has now ended the career, or the future career, of one striker, and for some reason, deep down inside, there isn't that much remorse. He's kind of off-putted by this. Why doesn't he feel bad? He doesn't feel bad at all. But why? And frankly, it's this feeling, an overwhelming feeling, of him knowing that he's scratching and clawing closer and closer to him becoming the greatest striker. The ego of himself that's buried deep inside is slowly but surely getting dug out. It's as if he's shoveling at it over and over, and soon, very soon, that ego of his will be fully awakened. An ego that he's never felt before. But with that said, Kira's gone, and there's 11 of them left. Ego would explain something to all of them. Would explain exactly what everything is going to ensue and what's going to happen. What he explains, well, is that now that there's 11 of them, they will create a team. Yeah, a team full of strikers. In which this would confuse everybody to an extent, but this whole thing would be explained by Ego that a team of strikers is how everything started for football. That all the strikers would pile up on one team, and everybody would try to get their own goals. That is what football used to be, and now they're gonna have to figure out a way to balance it, in which he tells them all that at the end of the day, some of them will work together. They will find maybe correlation in what's going on, and other times, people will betray them. People on their very own team will betray them, throw them aside, and will prey on their downfall. That's what it is, and that's what's going to happen, and that's just life. And he tells them all that he wishes them good luck, and he tells them that he hopes to see these unpolished gems truly shine very soon. The screen would turn off, and they would all sit there in silence for a little bit, thinking about what their next move should truly be. And frankly, they wouldn't have that much time to think, because the game against Team X would come barreling toward them. They would walk out through the halls, and when they would arrive on the field, they would all speak about what is to come and what they believe is going to happen, in which Isagi says that they really have to try their best to play this as a team, at least to a certain extent. Yes, he knows they all want to get their own goals. They all want to do this or that and score here and score there. They want to be the best on this team. He understands that. But at the same time, he's going to be real with them. He's going to show them reality. The reality is that not all 11 of them can be the best on this team. It's that simple. And they have to use their heads, use the knowledge of football that they've gained throughout the years to execute plans and execute more or less exploiting weaknesses of the other team, in which it sounds like their team is on board and it sounds like everyone is in agreement. But let's be honest, all plans go out the window right when the ball gets kind of pushed off and kind of passed around, because once it starts getting passed around, chaos begins to break loose. Isagi had a feeling that this would happen. He hates to admit it because he didn't want it to happen necessarily, but it did. Chaos would break loose like crazy, and he would just sigh. And there's one person on the other team that is a big monster of a man. Isagi sees him and is pretty taken back by it. I mean, he's never seen this person before, but he can tell that he's just biding and waiting for his time to strike. And once the ball goes loose, the one Shohei Bato would break free to more or less try his hand at getting the ball and scoring himself. But Isagi would read this and be directly in front of him. And as Shohei Bato tries to make a move, this is the first time Shohei Bato would feel more or less inferior for the first time ever. He would feel inferior at the point that Isagi absolutely outclasses him. Isagi would steal the ball, taking it from him and immediately bolting off while everybody struggles and is out of position. He knows that the field has opened up in a crazy and brand new way, so he's going to utilize that, and he's going to utilize that for his own advantage. He immediately would see openings, and let's just say everybody would panic and try and stop him, but soon they would realize the range that Isagi has with the power he has, shooting a goal from a good distance, probably 35 meters away, and scoring with ease. He would look at everybody and tell them all that he said that he knew this would happen if they didn't coordinate properly, but he'll bring things into his own hands if he needs to. Isagi would obviously be the person that is the best on Team Z. There is no doubt about it. There's nobody better, and at least at this point, there's nobody even close. And everybody is kind of taken back by this. He looks so similar to somebody they know. His movement, the way he shoots, the way he acts, the way he moves on the field, and the way he sees the field. Who is he like? And let's just say, some of the people there realize exactly who he plays like. He plays like the #1 striker in the world, Noel Noa. And everybody believes that he must be some mimic. Maybe he just really liked Noel Noa growing up, and so on and so forth. So he tried to idolize his game after him. Not a bad strategy if you want to become the greatest striker ever. So it does kind of make sense. Isagi would kind of continue throughout this game, and utilizing his overwhelming size, strength, and the fact that he's ambidextrous, with basically being able to use both of his feet, is something that not many people there, if not anybody, can guard. Because at the end of the day, these are all strikers. None of them are really defenders, and frankly, they haven't been evolved into a set defender just yet. If any of them really had experience as a defender, it really wouldn't matter that much anyways, because they haven't dedicated their life to being one. They've all dedicated their life to being a striker. So the weaknesses that Team X would have would be glaring, would be obvious, and the son of Noel Noa, Yoichi Isagi, would absolutely demolish the team. And once his team starts kind of falling in line in a way, showing that they're willing to work together, it becomes that much easier. And Isagi realizes how good some of his own players are. Bachira has a beautiful way of passing the ball. In fact, probably better dribbling, actually far better dribbling than what Isagi has. Isagi's dribbling is pretty good, but Bachira is so creative. Kunigami, he has range very similar to Isagi's, maybe not as far, but the fact is that Isagi can get him open goals very easily. It seems like Kunigami will actually be able to more or less enhance himself throughout this time as well, and maybe Kunigami and Isagi will be the perfect people to kind of feed off each other, because they're very similar in stature, and Kunigami himself can learn a lot from Isagi. On top of that, he has someone like Gagamaru. Gagamaru is extremely athletic, and Isagi loves someone like this because, for one, he could easily play the goalie position if he wanted to, but they can make some insane downfield plays that he's very interested in doing, maybe the next time they actually have a serious game. But for now, Isagi is fine with the idea that he can shut down Shohei Bado, and on top of that, he's okay with the idea that he can help his team get better and kind of slot in terms of, well, just being a team. He knows that being a team is difficult. He knows that evolving and transcending beyond just all 11 strikers is hard. They need to figure out what their weapons and their abilities and their skills fit what roles, and how could they utilize their striker abilities for different roles and actually make those roles / positions even better. That's what Isagi wants to do, and that's what he believes should happen, because at the end of the day, football is a game of chess, and he truly believes that. Football is a game that if you watch closely, you think you can have such huge advantages over every single team. And that's exactly what happened with Team X. On top of just Isagi outclassing them, this game would end up leading to a 5-0 victory for Team Z, and Team Z would show absolute domination, but eventually show good coordination toward the end of the game. With that game completely wrapped up, they all celebrate. They're happy, but Isagi's already back on the books, looking at film, figuring out what they should do. He wants to figure out exactly what plans and what should ensue, who should go where, and eventually he would come to the conclusion that everything should kind of flow through him, just in terms of what he can do. But Kunigami, in terms of his striking ability, he can definitely float around and score goals, more or less just all around. So that's great. The main ball handler could be him, but it also could be flip-flopped to Bachira as well, being that he's very creative with his ball handling. But he does seem kind of wild from time to time, as if he's kind of leashing himself. And of course, Isagi would point this out to himself while he's doing a bit of studying to figure out what they want to do. He does his research on the next team they're going to be playing, which is Team Y. And with that research, he learns a lot, and a lot more than what he probably should have, because he thinks that the game plan that he's creating is probably just sound. He can tell just by the way people play, the way people move, and the way people act, that these certain people are better than others. Now, with that said, does that mean that's a guarantee? Of course not. But he has his hunches, and he knows kind of what a good striker, a great striker, and different facilitators would look like, and what game plans would look like based on that team. So with all that said and done, Isagi has the game plan. Isagi knows what they want to do, and he's ready to take on this next challenge so that he can blitz through the competition, get through this first selection, because he wants to get on the field with his father as soon as possible. And he'll make sure that he wins, defeats, and obliterates anybody he has to get there. So is his ego finally rising? Is his ego finally coming out after being buried for so long? It seems like, well, the meeting of his father, that one call, set off something inside of Isagi that made him into an even more lethal striker than you could imagine. The pre-planning and the time for the game against Team Y is about to begin. Yoichi Isagi has everybody well informed and ready for the match. Cause at the end of the day, this match may matchup wise be a little bit easier than the one before, but at the same time, they really don't know for sure if their team is flat out ready for coordination. But luckily, they'll find out right now. The team match between Team Z and Y would then begin. And it's obvious who the issues are off the bat. Okawa and Miko. And they're only an issue because they're well put and well coordinated. And outside of more or less playing keep away, Isagi sees that they have a very basic plan in mind. And their basic plan is to pass the ball around more and more and more. That's until, well, they see an opening. But what happens when that opening never comes? What happens when that chance that they so seek out never arrives? Well, they sit there, stagnant, like nothing in the world is happening. And though they would continue to pass the ball around over and over and over and over again, trying to find that opening. And frankly, that opening just would not exist. That opening would just flat out never come. Isagi would show his prowess in terms of defense, would show how good he is at reacting, reading, and more or less distracting certain oppositions. And frankly, his presence alone, about 5 to maybe 10 minutes into the first half, would honestly and flat out scare people to the point that they would mess up. Now, once they messed up, Isagi would take advantage, stealing the ball away and scoring with such ease. And it was beautiful. And even Ego is currently watching, and he's smiling. Now, this is something of a miracle. His whole setup with Blue Lock might just be saved. I mean, come on. The fact is, he wasn't sure what would happen to Blue Lock once investors started trying to strip it from the ground up and trying to peel it open so that everybody could watch as entertainment. So once he sees this, once he sees the son of Noel Noa doing things that his father could do, let's just say his confidence would go up drastically, because the U20 team and Japan may currently have one Itoshi Sai, and he is kind of the gateway to Japan's national team, but his temptation to leave quicker than you could possibly imagine is obvious. And the fact is, Isagi might be the reason he stays here. Might be the sole reason, well, Sai Itoshi stays grounded in Japan. Now, that's something for later, the national team, and frankly, what could occur in the future. For now, they must all live in the moment. And in this moment, they watch as Isagi Yoichi destroys Team Y. And the destruction of Team Y is all because of a couple things. All because they were so far outclassed, but also the fact is their planning, their game plan, just flat out everything they planned so far is just not good enough. And it's never going to be good enough. And frankly, at the end of the day, Isagi is just so much better at thinking about these elaborate plans and thinking 10 steps ahead than anybody else in front of him. But he would speak to the one by the name of Nico. And he would tell him that he does have a lot of potential in this, but Nico himself would be kind of put back. I mean, it's not like he's that much older, or Isagi's that much older than him. Frankly, they're around the same age. And on top of that, he's so much younger than everyone else, but it's as if he acts so, I don't know, kind of mature in a way, in which it does put off a lot of the people there and a lot of the strikers there, because Isagi does have an ego. Don't get me wrong. He does think he is better than majority, if not everybody there, but he doesn't let his ego kind of cloud his judgment and cloud what he believes everyone and also himself are capable of, which is an extremely good thing and an extremely just flat out amazing thing that Isagi has within himself, especially when more or less he's kind of trying to make everybody on his own team realize what they're all capable of and also what they're capable of as a team. So in terms of exploiting what this team or what Nico's team is capable of or not capable of, in fact, it's pretty easy. And Isagi would find goals from every single range, and his overwhelming speed and just being as big as he is would easily see fit to that. His goal at the beginning of the game, about 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, would be an apparent thing that would be a common occurrence and would happen over and over and over again. But since they are playing a good bit of keep away, it does make it a little bit harder for Isagi to find his goals. But eventually, he would find every single one of them, and they would win 3-0. And after the game is over, Isagi and his team would celebrate. I mean, a celebration of kind of nothing really. I mean, they would celebrate, but nothing necessarily too surprising would have happened. But this game would definitely be the time that everyone buys in. Every single person there would 100% buy in. Because at the end of the day, if they win this next game, they get through. That they'll get into the next selection, and that's all that really matters to them at this moment. But all of them are feeling a sense of kind of inferiority. But at the same time, this works better for Ego. Ego wants them to feel inferior. He wants them to feel as if they need to catch up to this almost impossible being to catch up to. This is exactly what he wants. And Isagi is making his job that much easier, which is perfect because that's what Ego wants. He wants to create these dynamic and amazing strikers, and this is exactly what's going to happen. The fact is, they all feel inferior. They all feel that they're so much behind. They're so far behind Isagi, but even though this is true, they all work out with him, they all train with him, they all try to get better with him, because at the end of the day, they feel that the only way to get better than Isagi is to learn from him and then evolve past him. So this just inherently makes everybody a good bit better. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't know everybody's skills. Like, he can't teach Bachira how to dribble better, and frankly, he can't really make Raichi an elite defender. He can make them slightly better and better in general, but he's not going to make them so much better to the point where he's just enhancing them to a crazy degree. But don't get me wrong, the more Kunigami-like people are definitely getting leagues better, because Isagi is very similar to Kunigami in that regard. In terms of Bachira, he would get a little better because of Isagi and all the work they do together, but more or less Kunigami would be the main person that would get massively amounts better because of Isagi. With that said, though, they do make a plan and kind of structure a defense around stopping the next team they have to face, which would be the Wanama twins. The Wanama twins kind of are a bit of an anomaly in a certain way. They're very coordinated, and Isagi hasn't really gone up against people that are that coordinated yet in terms of Blue Lock. He hasn't gone up against anybody that is as coordinated as the Wanama twins. The Wanama twins run around together like insanely coordinated brothers, and they can basically read each other's minds. But at the same time, Isagi believes that his stature, size, speed, and frankly, his experience will overcome the Wanama twins. So when the game starts, they start with the ball, or Team Z starts with the ball, and Isagi would quickly show that his team has excelled drastically, passing it up to Bachira, as Bachira would dribble through, cutting and nutmegging 3 to 4 people in a row. But it's really because Isagi is giving him all these one-on-ones. They have to pay so much attention to, well, Isagi. If they don't, let's just say everything crumbles. And eventually Bachira would get a pass to Isagi, and everybody would think that this is their chance. They're trying to force a pass to the monster, trying to force a pass to this giant dude, but quickly Isagi would immediately stop the ball, controlling it, and he would hit it with the back of his heel, passing it. He wouldn't even try to score. He would kind of misdirect their attention to a certain side of his body, and then use his insane control over both of his feet to pass the ball to one Kunigami. Kunigami would be wide open as he shoots for a goal, and he shoots this far outside his normal range, and he would score with ease. Isagi would nod his head, and it seems like the practice that Kunigami has been going through has definitely been paying off. He even has a grasp on using his right foot. Yes, he doesn't continue to use only his right foot, but he does have a good grasp on it. It's not perfect, it's nothing insane, but he does have a decent idea of how to use it. Isagi would see that they got that first goal pretty easily, and would think to himself that they can really structure to make sure they get another one. And eventually the Wanama twins would show what they're capable of, sprinting down the field to 2-on-2 immediately with the defenders, and it would be obvious that their coordination is absolutely freakish. Yeah, absolutely freakish. They continue to kind of work the field, but quickly as Isagi begins to wall off one of them, it's obvious that the size of Isagi and the kind of speed, reflexes, and all of it, and his complete understanding of the field kind of destroys the Wanama twins' plans. Yes, they made everyone else look kind of silly, but they didn't make Isagi look no silly. He's completely fine. Isagi locks down one of them, forcing the other one to play solo, and once that happens, immediately a flash of red would come screaming across the field. Someone that Isagi hasn't really spoken to very much, but someone that has felt inspired by the coordination and just the want to get better, and frankly, it's all because of Isagi. Isagi has shown them a new pathway to becoming a striker, and something within Chiguri would come out, and that is his speed. Him being scared of hurting his knee now disappearing from his mind, and his shackles would break free. He would steal the ball and be gone. He would be bolting off, passing one of the Wanama twins, passing one of the other players, and Isagi would race down the field to try and catch him. He's never seen someone with such speed. There's so many different things opening up to his eyes now, so many different ideas. He's never seen someone with this type of speed. Chiguri would score, making the game 2-0, and Isagi would smile, and Chiguri would run over and tell him that it seems like he's slow, kind of labored compared to him. I guess he does have something on the great Isagi, in which Isagi would smirk and say that if Chigiri wants some goals, that's exactly what he's going to get. He didn't know someone could be as fast as him, and now he's excited. Chigiri smirks as well and gets ready for the goals that would ensue. And let's just say, Isagi would set him up for goal after goal, and it would feel as if there is no stopping the tandem at the moment. His power and his ability to pass more or less from any angle, because his usage of both of his feet, make him a lethal combo with Chigiri and his speed. And if it's not Chigiri, it's a wide open Kunigami easily scoring. And eventually they would absolutely obliterate the Wanama twins, putting them up 8-0 by the end of the game. And there's just no way, no chance that this team could even touch Team Z. And the game would then end, and the Wanama twins coordination would just fall short of what it should have been and what it could have been. But with that said, Isagi would be looking toward the future, because with the idea that they already know what's to come, and they already know that this next match is just flat out formality, he begins to just train, and everybody around him trains with him. They want to get better. They all work hard, and Isagi kind of talks about everything that he can do and what everything he's worked on throughout his entire life, and that he's been just kind of working at it forever. And they would bring up again the fact that he can use both feet, and that his playstyle is eerily similar to the one of Noel Noa. And he would kind of awkwardly laugh about this, and he says that he's just been a big fan for a long time. They would all kind of look at him and then kind of squint, and they would ask him once again, why exactly does he play like Noel Noa so much? Is he really just a fan? In which Isagi would kind of reply, saying that he is just a fan. He really is. But a couple of them would catch on, thinking that he is lying. But then Bachira would jump in and kind of make like a joke / kind of a distraction, and Isagi would be left off scotch-free. He doesn't want everyone knowing that he's the son of Noel Noa, because at the end of the day, that might put either a bigger target on his back or just unwanted attention that he doesn't really want right now, in which Bachira does kind of save him. And it's pretty obvious that Bachira knows for a fact, because once they all leave and head toward the cafeteria, he kind of gives Isagi a whole, oh, like, you're welcome nudge, in which they head into the cafeteria and they would see actually the stars of Team V. Yeah, the people they're going to be taking on very soon. They actually speak for a little bit, Isagi learning of Nagi and kind of why he doesn't really enjoy football, or at least he says he thinks it's boring and so on. And this kind of annoys him. I mean, seriously, why are you even here then? You're kind of wasting a spot. But of course, Nagi and Reo would kind of just back each other up in a way, or more Reo would back up Nagi. And Isagi would kind of just be annoyed by this and kind of just walk away, saying that it's ridiculous to see someone like him, someone that's supposedly so talented, just say all of these things about football, saying that it's boring, that it's a drag, and that he doesn't want to do this and do that. It's kind of just stupid in his opinion, that he has to find his love for football, or there's really no point of even playing it in the first place. But he'll see him on the field. They'll settle it over there, and Isagi would walk out. And Reo would kind of wonder why he's so serious. Like, why is that guy so damn serious? And why does it even matter to him? It's not like it's affecting him at all. And Isagi would eventually begin his planning for Team V. That planning would kind of ensue with dealing with Nagi. And Isagi would tell them that they don't need to worry about him, that he'll handle Nagi, and that he's seen players like him. He's seen prodigies in training camps. He's seen one-of-a-kind talents. He's seen it all. So he doesn't have to worry. They don't have to worry about Nagi. Chigiri would laugh, and he would say that he hasn't seen it all, because he never saw the speed of Chigiri before. In which he says that he's seen it now, so he has seen it all. He would laugh at this and say that he's beaten prodigies like Nagi, taken on people just like him. He doesn't know what he's really capable of, and based on the film, it probably doesn't tell half of it. But let's just say, I'm pretty good at adjusting. Isagi would leave the room to get ready for bed, because the next day they'll be taking on Team V, in a match that means literally nothing, but to Isagi, it means everything. Because he wants to make sure that he wants to make sure that every single period is dotted and every single I has a dot as well, and single thing he has, it has a stamp on it, a stamp of his own approval. And the match with Team V and the domination of Team V would be something that he wants to see now, in which him matching up and marking Nagi was the best choice he could have made. The one-on-one with him and Nagi was a spectacle, and in the beginning, well, Nagi would get kind of the best of him. His ball control would be so insane that it seems as if it's almost impossible to kind of intercept the ball without fouling the guy. But Nagi himself isn't as strong as Isagi, and once Isagi gets kind of the pressure on Nagi, even though he can kind of trap the ball, he can't really do anything with it. Yeah, he can't really do much with it overall. He kind of struggles to look for a shot, and even throughout the time of him evolving and doing these insane trap fakes, Isagi, he doesn't fall for them. He doesn't fall for any of them. And it's not because they're not impressive. It's not because they're not skillful. It's just because Isagi is built to guard someone like Nagi. The pressure he puts on him, the ideas that flow through his head, the knowledge he has for the game, and frankly everything that is unfolding in front of him, he's ready. And he understands that. He understands everything that's happening. And he has a goal greater than every single person here. He wants to meet on the field with his father. It doesn't have to be with him, it could be against him. And ideally, that's what he would rather it be, against him. He would love the fact that he could step on the field with his own father, take him on one-on-one, and it would be father versus son, the next generation of striker, right in front of the current generation's, well, greatest striker. Isagi, at the end of the day, may be surprised by some moves that Nagi unfolds, and might be surprised by certain things that are seen or done by Nagi, but at the end of the day, his goals and his ideals trump everything, so much so that everything seems so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Every single thing seems so small, as if nothing matters but the end goal of playing against his father, Noel Noa. So, stopping Nagi, exposing Ryo, and Zentetsu being kind of the only issue is an easy way to beat Team V. Nagi may get a goal, maybe even two, but after the game goes longer and longer, the son of Noel Noa will find his own goals. Goal after goal after goal. There is no stopping him, because Isagi might develop a way to stop Nagi, but Nagi will never develop a way to stop Isagi. He's too weak, he's too frail, and he's just not big enough. Not even close. Isagi would find his way to the goal multiple times, and so would Kunigami, Chuguri, and Bachira, and maybe even one for Kagamaru. The game would be over, and it would end in about a 6-2 game, and frankly, Nagi has evolved so much from just going head-to-head clashing with the titan of Isagi, Yoichi, and it's impressive how good he kind of did. Yes, he didn't win the game, and they were kind of far off of it, but it's still impressive what he was capable of. Very impressive. Isagi would celebrate with his team and their final win, and he would speak with Nagi, and Nagi would talk about how he's never felt so excited in his life, that he's never felt this adrenaline of playing like he's played here. And he hopes to see Isagi once again, and he hopes to play either with him or against him once again, because that's what he wants. Isagi would be happy to hear this, telling Nagi that they will definitely play once again. There is no doubt about it in his mind. There is no world that they don't play. So he doesn't have to worry about if it happens. It's truly about when it happens. He would smile and he would say that he'll be seeing him soon and he can't wait to see him because he's talented. He did tell his team that he's seen so many versions of Nagi, of this person, but he was wrong. Nagi's a different type of person, a different sort of prodigy. And honestly, that's on him for assuming that Nagi would have been the same as all of them. Because maybe that was his arrogance, maybe that was his ego talking. Nagi was probably the best of them all, if not the best of them all. With that said though, his team would celebrate with having some fire food from just kind of like a banquet. And frankly, Isagi has a ton of points, so he can kind of get them more food or get them stuff. So it's not that big of a deal. With the first selection, coming to an end and it finally being over, his team being in the scorecards in the rankings of 4-0, being the number one team, it's kind of a celebration leading up until the next time they face off. The next time they face off, though, would be in the second selection, and Isagi would be ecstatic and excited for that next selection. But the next selection would start after a ton of training. This training would be easy for Isagi. This wouldn't even be close. He could work out and do all the stuff he normally does, and his team actually has an edge in terms of this workout regimen because of how hard they've been working out this entire time. So they're all a good bit better in terms of physicality and all a good bit better overall, which is a great thing for Isagi to see and a great thing for all of them to see entirely. Isagi would finally see the second selection begin by Jinpachi Ego explaining exactly what's going to occur. He explains exactly what the first selection was about what they were basically capable of and what they were going to be doing, and now the second selection will be about individuality, but at the same time it will be about what they're capable of on their own, and then they will then team up in small teams to see how they work with other people. And yeah, they could team up with their own teammates, but maybe they'll find people even better. Maybe they'll find people so much greater to the point that it's truly unconceivable to go with the original people they're comfortable with. The point of this is to get uncomfortable. Be happy in the uncomfortable states that they're going to be in and be happy with what's to come. Now, with that said, their first challenge is up and they need to walk through those doors and see what it is. Isagi walks through and he sees a holographic Blue Lock Man. Holographic Blue Lock Man seems to be more or less there to train him and get his capabilities up. But let's just say Blue Lock Man is no challenge for Isagi. He obliterates this thing, absolutely takes Blue Lock Man to the grave. And it's really just because of the fact that Isagi's striking ability, just kicking the ball with both of his feet and kind of his ability to more or less shoot from really any angle and any kind of weird slanted position, is very easy for Isagi. And it doesn't matter how good the hologram was, it was going to get destroyed really fast, and Isagi did it in record time, super quick. In a matter of just, we're talking maybe 10 minutes, 15? Nah, but Isagi just does it extremely quick, finishing it in an easily record time, walking out of those doors, and he would see nobody. Nobody would be there. Isagi would look around, but literally no one's there. He would kind of be curious, because at the end of the day, he doesn't have a 1 on his shirt. He actually didn't get enough goals to have a 1 on his shirt. But in all fairness, I mean, that kind of trumps the kind of ratios in a weird way, because yes, he didn't have a ton of goals, but he did have a good amount, but he didn't have as much as he could have. He could have straight up had almost every single goal if he really wanted to, but he's curious to see who got all those goals, who's the next person to walk out, and he might have a 2 on his shoulder but the person with number 1 on his would walk out next. He would be kind of annoyed at the fact that someone beat him to this, but he would walk over and he would tell them that they're teaming up, and whoever's coming out next will team up with them. And Isagi asks why he should team up with him, and of course Rin would give some weird, snotty kind of response, and Isagi says that he doesn't really like the way he acts. And by the way, he looks real familiar. Isagi would tilt his head. Are you Sai Itoshi's little brother? In which Rin would be pissed about, telling him to shut up and that has nothing to do with anything and that it doesn't matter who his brother is. Isagi says that he didn't mean to offend him. He really didn't. But he likes the idea that he must be here to take down his brother, right? I mean, his brother isn't here. I mean, his brother's what, a midfielder now? Kind of lame in his opinion. Rin would smirk slightly but kind of hide it, thinking that he kind of likes Isagi. He's kind of funny and seems like a good person and a dude that might be able to help him get his goals in proper alignment. So he kind of deals with Isagi and kind of tries not to get annoyed by certain remarks he says. But eventually the next person would come out, and it wouldn't be who exactly you would believe to come out next. It's actually Nagi. Yeah, Nagi. Someone that has mainly ball control would come out next, beating other people to the punch. And Nagi would come out and immediately go to Isagi, saying he wants to join his team right now. Like right now. And Rin would look at his shoulder and see that his number's actually not that good compared to theirs, and he's curious at how he got through so quick. And Isagi says that Nagi's a good pickup. He's a really good pickup, and that if he wants to go in right now, that Nagi would be a good guy to kind of go up with. In which Rin says that it doesn't even matter because they're going to win anyways, so let's just go on through. Rin would walk through with himself, Isagi, and Nagi, and they would get ready for whoever is to come next. Who is their next challenge, and who will take them on first in this 3 versus 3 match? Well, you're gonna have to find out in the next and final part of What If Isagi Was Noel Noa's Son. Isagi, Rin, and Nagi are waiting in the waiting room, waiting for a team of 3 to eventually enter. And the first team of 3 that would enter and challenge them would be Bachira, Kunigami, and Chiguri. Because at the end of the day, they saw that Isagi left without him, and they want to challenge him as soon as possible. And frankly, they know that they may be outmatched, but at the same time, if you want to be better than every single person here, you have to challenge the best people here. And obviously, Isagi, Rin, and Nagi take on the challenge, but Bachira, Kunigami, and Chiguri truly did not know what they were getting into, because the X factor of this team was someone they didn't even know in the first place. Rin Itoshi, little brother of Sai Itoshi, the one of Japan's, U20 team and prodigy of Japan. Now, Isagi knew who Rin was, knew what he was capable of, but the other 3 did not. And Rin would show out exactly why he's number 1. Isagi and Rin would show why they are an insane tandem, and it's only because of the way they see the field. With an addition of the firepower of Nagi, it feels as if they created an unstoppable force and an unstoppable team. Isagi would score goals from ranges ungodly of the field, even past the halfway point, and Rin would even be kind of impressed by this himself. But Rin would show out as well, reading everything on the field, guarding and covering and scoring in places that nobody would have thought possible. The only goal that Bachira's team would get would be from Bachira himself. Bachira would take it upon himself to utilize his dribbling to try and get through, and eventually he would, scoring a goal. but their team would be so far behind that it felt as if there was no chance. And quickly, Rin would set up Isagi for another quick look at the goal, but one tap pass to Nagi and the goal would be his, scoring once again, and the game would be brought to an end 5-1. And frankly, Bachira's team would be completely just taken back by this, completely distraught. Kunigami and Chiguri feel as if they weren't able to do much at all, if not anything, but Bachira would stand there in complete disbelief, but at the same time would smile, thinking that there are two monsters in front of him. They're absolutely insane. That he wants to play with both of them at the same time. It's probably so much fun. In which, he would get his wish because Rin and Isagi would decide to choose Bachira. And Nagi would be curious what happened to Reo, and if Reo is still in the waiting room or something. In which Bachira's former team would say that they think that Reo's still in the waiting room, actually kind of looking for him. He must have left super quick, so Reo never got to see him. In which Nagi feels a bit guilty about, because he got too excited at seeing what was happening and got too excited at joining Isagi that he left Reo. But still, he can't really do much about it now. He's already made the decision, and he wants to grow with these two monsters, and also with Bachira. The four of them would head off, and frankly, they would have a while just kind of on their own. Nobody would actually finish for a little bit, so they got some time to wait. In which they kind of just work together, work out, train, and so on. And even Rin and also Isagi would kind of speak. And eventually Rin would believe that Isagi is just flat out super similar to one Noel Noa, in which he would kind of feel some inferiority beyond this, because at the end of the day, Noel Noa is the best striker alive. So he wants to actually be like him as well. He wants to be like Noel Noa as well. And the fact that someone else is like him, it kind of puts a dent in what he wants to do. But with that said, that he doesn't really know that Isagi is Noel Noa's son, but he's still kind of skeptical about, how he learned to play in such a way, and he feels that the only way to truly do that is through some genetic build, but he's not going to really question much right now. He's not going to really worry about it at this moment, but still, it's something to think about. They would work out, train together. Same thing with Bachira and Nagi. But getting Nagi to work out and train is like a totally different thing. So they kind of just let him work out whenever he wants to work out. But they all work out together more or less. And eventually another team of four would finally arrive. And that other team of four, and the team would consist of Chiguri, Kunigami, Reo, and Shido. Now, this would be a team that is a bit unorthodox, and frankly, Isagi can tell that there's some underlying issues within the team just by the way Kunigami reacts. It's obvious that he doesn't really enjoy playing with one of them, and it's obvious who it is. So that's something to keep in mind. And frankly, at the end of the day, Isagi feels that there may be one person he needs to focus on guarding, and that might be the guy that everybody just absolutely hates, in which that's Shido. In which, once the game would begin, it would be obvious how talented Shido truly is, and how talented and just how good and far off he is compared to everyone else. It's just his ability to have his back toward the net and more or less score from any range inside the box or anywhere inside the box is absolutely unbecoming of any striker, especially because Isagi has never seen something like this. But at the end of the day, Isagi uses his big build, his ability to kind of muscle people away, to kind of contest Shido as much as possible. And in doing this, he tries to keep him outside the box. While he does this though, Shido does end up scoring maybe 1 or 2 goals, But luckily enough, Rin is able to read the field once Shido is shut down, and he's able to counter-react pretty quickly with the rest of his team. And eventually Shido would get frustrated, calling Isagi just a big oaf, saying that he'll never be anything other than, well, a defensive player. But everybody knows that this is completely false. Isagi is just conforming to what they need to do right now to stop this team. And eventually Shido would get so frustrated with his team being down 4-2 and more or less him getting stonewalled by Isagi, and he gets so frustrated that he'd take a swing toward Isagi's head with a kick. And as he does, Isagi would duck and move out of the way. Shido would then follow it up with another kick to his head, but luckily enough, someone else is there to push him to the side, so the kick actually misses this time, just without even Isagi dodging. And, well, Shido would eventually get a red card, and he would get kicked out of the game just like that, in which Isagi would shake his head, saying that he just sabotaged his team's chances of even trying to win, and that he really needs to get his head leveled, and there's no reason for him to act in such a way. And why would he? I mean, he's going to throw away his chances at becoming the best striker in the world in a snap of a finger. In which Isagi would kind of scoff towards Shido, just shaking his head, as Shido's team would eventually lose. In which Isagi, talent-wise, would normally just pick Shido. I mean, come on, he's super talented and just, at the end of the day, extremely good. But he says that there's no reason to do that because of the way he acts, and the best way to approach this is adding speed to their team, and that would be Chigiri. Nagi would want Ryo to join the team, but things would get massively overruled, obviously, because Ryo is far from the best player on that team, and it doesn't necessarily even make sense for them to put Ryo on that team. So yeah, he gets overruled, unfortunately, or at least unfortunately for Nagi, and the team of Rin, Isagi, Chigiri, Nagi, and also Bachira then go on to the very end. It seems as if there's only one last thing for them to do, and that one last thing is kind of unknown to all of them, or at least to a certain extent unknown to all of them. That last thing is actually a game against some of the best players in the entire world. That last game is against the World 5. The World 5 consists of more or less 5 players from different countries, and they're insanely good at football. They're absolutely insane, and they're some of the best in the entire world, if not the best in the entire world, which at the end of the day is a sight to see, because this is the only time, or really frankly the first time, and maybe the only time for a while, that Blue Lock will be able to take on some of the best in the world until they become some of the best in the world. So Isagi's team, that consists of Rin, Bachira, Nagi, and obviously Chigiri, would take on the World 5. But it would become a massive issue, because at the end of the day, the World 5 is absolutely unstoppable, at least in terms of offense, and they're all just individually elite at what they do. But at the end of the day, Isagi would find a goal early, and same thing with Rin, but eventually it would all lead to all of them kind of just showing how many levels above they currently are. Isagi, though, is actually able to keep up with one of them. He's able to guard one of them pretty well, but that doesn't mean anything when all of them individually are so insane to the point that straight up it doesn't matter at the end of the day. That they're that all of them individually are so insanely strong and lethal that they're going to win no matter what. So yeah, they might score 2 goals, but eventually the World 5 would win 5-2, and they would just show flat out how dominant they truly are, and how how many levels above they are and how many levels the Blue Lock's best strikers need to climb before getting to that point of more or less high level. In which, after the game is all said and done, they would all head out and await for everybody else to finish the second selection. But during this time, they would all continue to train, get ready, and just try to get better in general. Because at the end of the day, there's a new motivation for all of them. For Isagi, for Nagi, for Rin, for all of them. Because they see that the World 5 is so much better than them, to the point that they know they need to get so much better themselves. Isagi's goal is to play against people and beat people like his father, like Noel Noa. So the fact is that even though he was able to keep up relatively decently, he can't do it on his own. So he needs to be able to get better, get other people better, and he needs to be able to take on whoever comes at them and whenever they face them. He needs to be able to take them on without a sweat. He needs to be able to play them like equals or as if he was better than all of them. These are the things Isagi is thinking about, and every bit of training, every bit of work regimen he goes through is all directed toward that idea, all directed toward the idea that he needs to be better than the World 5 and that he needs to level up as much as possible. Eventually, though, everybody else from the second selection would finally arrive, and everybody else would finally, pass to the next selection. Ego would then appear on the screen as everybody approaches, and he would tell them all exactly what's going to occur next, and more specifically, what's going to happen next. They have a match with the U20 team of Japan, and they're going to have to take on some of the best players in Japan, in which, it includes the prodigy of Japan, Sai Itoshi, the older brother of Ren Itoshi, in which everybody is kind of taken back by this, but Isagi isn't at all, and Rin is just amped up to destroy his brother. In which Ego would explain exactly what's going to happen next and exactly what they're going to be doing, and tell them all that they may be all unpolished gems, but their next step forward is something of legend, and that their goal now is to take down Japan's U20 team and show them exactly what they're made of. And he then tells them all that he wishes them good luck and that they'll be speaking very soon, and they'll be approaching the perfect time for them to show their skills very, very soon. As the screen turns off, Isagi would leave, but he would be directed toward a different room, and a TV screen would turn on, and it would be Ego once again. Ego would speak to him, saying that that Isagi himself is more or less the perfect unpolished gem for this match, but he wants to do a little bit more polishing before the U20 match. He's going to take him away from everybody else and polish him to the degree of being exactly like his father, in which Isagi would look at Ego and nod, as eventually Ego would say that he thought he would have a bit of a surprise for Isagi before he pushed him through hell, in which Isagi would be confused and eventually would see his father on the screen. Noel Noa would send him a message telling his son how proud of him he is so far and how much he's done, and that he wouldn't be surprised if they're on the same field sooner than he could possibly imagine. Noel Noa would nod and smile and say that he's proud of his son, and then the screen would turn off. Ego would then tell him that he hopes he's ready because they have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. Ego says that he's going to create him into a striker even better than Noel Noa, because at the end of the day, it seems that Isagi has potential to be far greater than his father. Isagi would smile and then smirk, and he would tell Ego that he's prepared for whatever he has to dish out. Ego says that it's good that he says that, because it's time for them to walk through hell so he can come out a diamond. And the screen would turn off and Isagi would see a door open up as if it's a way for him to go and his entrance into hell. And once he comes out, it would be time for the U20 match. And what happens in that match, though, is a story for another day, and maybe a story that will never be told. But for now, you all can make your own conclusions on the idea of Isagi becoming the next greatest striker in the world and becoming even greater than his father, Noel Noa. But if you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's all I really gotta say.